Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of Chiefs Kingdom, it all comes down to this. A whole season of ups and downs, trials and tribulations, turnovers and penalties, stellar defense and not so stellar wide receivers. And your Kansas City Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. What a time to be alive. Matt Stagner here with Ron Kopp Jr. Thanks for joining us. Ron, how you feeling about Super Bowl week?
Whew, okay, Stags coming in with it. I was almost as good as Bruce Buffer last night. Not quite as good, but Bruce Buffer bringing in the Chiefs. I will say that was pretty hype. That got me going. That's a special voice right there.
I will not compete against Bruce Buffer in anything. So.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, he's a pretty built dude too. I don't know if you'd want to mess with him in literally anything. But yeah, shout out Bruce Buffer. Shout out Vegas. Because that was a fun way to get the Super Bowl week going, right? Opening night, we're here. Kind of got a routine by now. I know that's something Patrick said, right? Where he's kind of like, yeah, I'm sticking to my Super Bowl week routine.
Yeah, 28 can we pause old. There? Your quarterback has a Super Bowl routine, Kansas City Chiefs fans. That is a sentence that I can't imagine saying as a younger person when I was Ron's age, for example.
Yeah, no, this is ridiculous. No, and it's their second year in a row. It's their fourth of 5 years. To think that they were just that weird AFC championship against the Bengals away from all these in a row. But hey, Super Bowl 58, a great number in Chiefs Kingdom. Shout out DT, the late Derek Thomas. I've been loving that kind of symbolism that people have been pointing out. And so we're here, man. I don't know, Stags. We're here. Opening night was fun. Now, what was your favorite? Go ahead.
Now, to be clear, we're not here.
No, no. That's thank you for clarifying that. No, we are at our homes. Pete Sweeney's on in Vegas, so shout out the boss man. He is paroling around the streets, around the strip. But I don't know, Stags. What did you take away from opening night? Was there any favorite moments of yours? Any particular things that stood out to you?
There's been such a flood of media for both teams, but man, I can't even get through my Twitter feed anymore, my X feed. There's so much, good quotes, good stuff coming out, clips. I love the Travis Kelce. Obviously, anytime you put him in front of a mic, it is good things happen, and it's fun. I love the amount of boos he got, where it almost, and that's booze, not booze. He almost was drowned out by the 49ers crowd and loved it. And you saw him start to bounce up and down and say, let's go. I'm ready to play right now. That was cool to see.
Yeah, that fired me up too. And it is probably worth clarifying that you meant the vocal booze, not the liquid booze.
Yeah, hopefully he stays away from the liquid variety, at least until late Sunday night.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And actually saw Mahomes had a quote saying, hey guys, if we win, I'll get all y'all back to Vegas. We can party in Vegas afterwards, right? And that's actually what they did last year, if everyone remembers. A big group of them went to Vegas after they beat the Eagles.
That's right.
No, I love that part of it too. The Niners Nation and really honestly, because Mahomes was kind of the one, he was getting booed too in that same setting. And he was kind of, okay, Niners Nation, I hear you. But it's like, I wonder if that's just kind of the NFL fan base in general. We've been kind of talking about how the Chiefs are the villains, and I don't think it's just the 49ers fans that want to see the Chiefs lose on Sunday. And so I do think that those boos are kind of those Patriots-esque boos. It's kind of that, just everyone that's not a Chiefs fan is wanting to see them go down and wanting to, kind of hate on them. Chris Jones got it too. He had a fun moment where he said, in Spags we trust, and it was just the boos came down. They were very loud for his.
I think the loudest boo in that crowd was Steve Spagnuolo, who does not appreciate this much attention. So he was probably booing that comment as much as anybody.
Yeah, he said he was trying to burn all the shirts they were selling. I'm like, Spags, they were going to a good cause. So maybe not burn them. Maybe just maybe just ignore them. But no, I'm a huge fan of how this week has set up so far. With the 49ers complaining about their practice surface too. saying that it's spongy. It's there's seams in the field. I've heard is what has been said. And so
they said it
they're
passed
happy.
all the safety tests. It's appropriate to work out on, but they prefer a more firm field. So they tried to get the Chiefs to switch with them, and people were upset that the Chiefs wouldn't trade. But this is not a random thing or some part of the fix that's in or the NFL script. Like literally, there's a home and an away team for every Super Bowl, and every single time the home team practices and the home team's practice facilities and the away team practices at a local university generally, right? And that's the way it works every year.
Yeah, last year Chiefs were at the Arizona State facility when the Eagles were working out at the Cardinals facility, and I didn't hear anything about that, even though Will Compton, Busting with the Boys, had to say it was insane that the Chiefs were practicing at the Raiders facility and that UNLV was the 49ers site. So yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, hey, I get, that maybe your practice, if your practice field really isn't, what you want up the standards, but to make it this big of a story, Adam Schefter was on the Pat McAfee show and made a comment that, like, oh, the Niners are very upset. This is something that is very, they're really dug in on, being, like the NFL is screwing them over here or whatever. Yeah. Hey, while that's happening, James Palmer tweets last night that the Chiefs actually practiced yesterday outside in the rain in full pads. They haven't had a fully padded practice like for a big chunk of the year, because you really don't do padded practices once you're into the season. But it sounds like the players kind of wanted it. And I think that just kind of is the last kind of the cherry on top of like which team is here for business and which team was kind of just excited to get here, Stacks. I don't know. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I take it that way, but I also take it, if you look back through this playoff run, the Chiefs have been the bully physically. They've been the more aggressive team, but the tougher team, especially against the Ravens, where nobody thought that they would get out physical by anybody. The Chiefs took it to them that way. It seems to be they've adopted this attitude that they are the tougher, stronger team. No longer is this a finesse operation that scores a ton of points and gets run all over. There's a lot of pride in their toughness and the way they handle themselves physically on the field. You're right; they're all business, but they're also showing that they're just not going to be pushed around. And the fact that you choose to play in pads the week of the Super Bowl while your other team complains about it being too soft, that's like there's the three bears. One of the beds was too soft and one was too hard, and the middle one was just right. I mean, what is the downside of playing on a relatively soft practice field?
Yeah, I mean,
what's the worst that could happen?
I mean, is it the footing? Because, like, I get that, but, like, what are you doing? Why are you going full speed in a practice anyway?
Yeah, so I'm thinking a softer field is a slower field.
Yeah,
but
you're practicing. Who cares?
Practice shouldn't matter. Yeah,
right.
And it's not dangerous. It's not like the stadium, was it Azteca in Mexico City, where the Chiefs couldn't even put a game on there. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios where they could be justifiably upset or concerned. This doesn't seem like one of them, but it doesn't seem like the only thing they're complaining about either. I saw the quote, and this has made the rounds. What do you think of the Chiefs' offensive tackles? They hold a lot. that's where you're going to start. I mean, this is a team that doesn't seem to respect the opponent as much as the Chiefs respect them. And I think that's another sign of this professionalism, somewhat of a sign of weakness. If you're verbally lashing out at your opponent and all the circumstances around it, it's like you're putting excuses out there just in case you need them.
Yeah, a little bit, right? Laying the groundwork for that. Yeah, no, and that's the thing. The Niners, they are practicing on a soft field. It's outdoors, and that was kind of the other thing too. The game is indoors, so it's like, hey, the Chiefs have this indoor facility they can use. The Chiefs opted, even though the game is indoors, to work outside just to be, and that is to what we're all saying is just that they are coming in here with a mindset and attitude, a business like mindset. And, I think that extends the San Francisco part of it extends to Charvarius Ward, a former Chief, because he kind of had an interesting quote, not only about Chiefs, but actually before they even got to Vegas last week. Charvarius Ward had a press conference and was saying, he literally said, yeah, we'll probably turn up the first day or two, but then we'll lock in. Like, he said those exact words in a press conference. And then and actually this morning I saw some kind of vague tweets about I guess there was a rumor that Shanahan was drinking last night, and there were people saying, who cares if San Francisco fans were kind of, defending him if he was. I don't have, that's all speculation, but it is a little interesting. And he also kind of had the quote during opening night, right, where he said everything in San Francisco is better than it is in Kansas City. He was asked kind of what's different about the Chiefs, or what's better about the 49ers and the Chiefs. And he said everything, which is like, okay, that's kind of odd.
Yeah. Everything? All right. Keep talking. At the same time, the Chiefs players are saying this will be the toughest opponent we've played all year. Looking forward to the challenge. Like, you can tell who's been there before and who hasn't. Can you imagine Andy Reid out for beers, by the way, the night before a game or the week before a game? Like, I just don't see that happening. He's not in the club. There's no way.
He might take up a lot of space in that club, and they,
he's probably hitting a buffet, but he's not hitting a club.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of good Vegas buffets out there. That might be where he's spoiling himself right now. Well, another guy that's out there though in Vegas that might have been a little surprising that he was there is Kadarius Toney. He is out there talking to media. He was on NFL Network last night giving a live check-in with what's going on with him, which I was pretty shocked about. But it was interesting because, he kind of told Michael Robinson of NFL Network that Instagram post that we all saw where he was kind of saying maybe he wasn't hurt. He blamed that on, it being a little chopped up and edited before being released. So, that he wasn't talking about the Chiefs. He was talking about Giants fans. He wouldn't hate on the Chiefs. He loves the Chiefs. And then later he said, I can be a number one receiver if I get the ball in my hands or if I touch the ball, right? That was kind of his quote there. So interesting words from Toney. I don't know. Any, you have any thoughts about Toney being in Vegas? And I don't know if he's going to be practicing, like, or do we want to see him in the game?
They bring everybody, from my understanding, injured players, practice squad players, injured practice squad players, right?
Yeah.
Firsthand probably that happens to be true. Yeah.
Right, absolutely, yeah. But it just seemed like Toney was a little, he was a little bit in the doghouse, and there's ways teams can get around that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it really seems, and credit to Nate Taylor from The Athletic, he mentioned that it feels like they're giving him the Clyde Edwards-Helaire 2023 treatment, where it was, hey, looking good, he's probably healthy, probably could be activated for the Super Bowl, and then he ends up not being activated for the Super Bowl. So we'll see if that prediction comes true. I wouldn't be upset if he were in the game, but I feel like the Chiefs have a winning formula right now, and I don't want to see them get away from that. They've really figured out how to play a smart brand of offense where they're not giving up the football, they're not taking any undue chances, and they're putting their defense in the best position to succeed. I don't see why you would try to change it up too much. Now, Jerick McKinnon, similar situation, is now healthy, active, probably has a good chance to play, it sounds like. They've been in a good place without him, but do you let him play in the Super Bowl? Probably, given his track record. It's a little different maybe from given what they've put on the field.
Yeah, and McKinnon is a third running back, and it's nice to have three running backs. With receiver, you can make the argument. Well, now they have McCole. Now they have Richie isn't injured like he was at times this season. They have guys that can do what Toney has done for the team in terms of punt returning, in terms of playing from the slot. And you could make an argument that like guys like McCole and Richie might just be a little more reliable, not as likely to volleyball up an interception. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I think.
That's a tough argument to make when McCole fumbled both of his touches 2 weeks ago. Right?
That's true. Yeah. That's true. And trust me, that drove me absolutely nuts. But still, that was the play calling more than than it's McCole. You know, I hated that play call, giving McCole the ball.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know what you're saying. I would still rather have McCole. You know, just running. He's faster too. He's more. He is a faster player. Kadarius Toney can make someone miss in space and can be shiftier than McCole, but McCole's speed is nice to have in terms of stretching the defense horizontally and vertically. And that's the thing is the Niners. We saw this last year in the regular season. McCole had 3 touchdowns on jet sweeps against them. I mean, there's something about getting to the edge on this Niners team that they really need to have, and McCole has that speed that Toney just doesn't. So I think I'd rather have Toney. I'd rather have McCole.
Matchups. Yeah, I mean,
yes, please.
I think it's going to be interesting. This game, you know, I'll go back to my standby quote. I don't really care about the matchups as much as how the Chiefs play. I expect the Chiefs to be bringing their A game. Obviously, there's nothing left to hold back in the Super Bowl. Maybe they bust out some crazy stuff like Kadarius Toney, but the chances are they're going to stick with the formula that works. But let's look at some of the key matchups in this game. The 49ers are a really, really talented football team. I think that's the first thing that jumps out. On paper, if you just pull up their depth chart, I mean, this reads like not quite a Pro Bowl roster, but you know, there's a substantial number of known players, especially on their defense and their offensive skill positions, that you kind of raise an eyebrow and say, "Wow, this is a pretty talented team." What are some of the key matchups that you're watching this weekend?
Well, let's start with, I mean, you talked about the playmakers, but someone has to get them the ball, and someone has to kind of, you know, delve it out. And I think Brock Purdy for the Niners has been a good quarterback this year. He really has. You know, I think he might be an upgrade over Jimmy G, I will say. I've never been a huge fan of Jimmy G. I think Brock Purdy might have just a little bit more kind of, you know, the ball maybe comes out a little hotter out of his hand. He just moves a little better than Jimmy G too. Jimmy G's played good football for the Niners, but I do think Brock Purdy might be just a step above that. And so I do think, you know, they have a decent quarterback there. But the thing is, you know, he hasn't really played the top defenses in the NFL. And when he has, you know, it hasn't been great. It hasn't. I know we have some stats on that. I don't know if you have those pulled up on the 2 games. I can pull those up after I throw it back to you. But that's the thing is, like, the Niners offense is all about rhythm. It's very similar to the Dolphins offense that this team played twice already this year. It's about getting ahead of the sticks, making defenses not know if we're going to run or pass because we're in those neutral situations. We're never putting ourselves in 3rd and long. And so when we do that, you know, we kind of can neutralize the pass rush a little bit, and we can just let Brock Purdy just throw where the play is supposed to, right? He can, and yes, of course, there are definitely plays where he is, you know, making reads at the line and he is calling stuff out and he is making the plays himself, but it's all set up. It's all within the scheme. And so it's all about messing up that rhythm. That's what it's all about, the pass rush. And so that's the first thing. I think the Chiefs pass rush without Charles Omenihu really just needs to be able to disrupt Brock Purdy when he is passing the ball. And that starts with good run defense. But when we get to those pass downs, it's about being creative and how to get after the quarterback.
Yeah, I do think this is probably the number one key to this game is you've got a guy who's been there, won Super Bowls, won MVPs, you know, one of the winningest quarterbacks in playoff history by just about any measure. And then you've got Brock Purdy. Like that matchup doesn't seem to be even by any means. I think the Chiefs defense can get to Brock Purdy. I think they can disrupt him. I think Spags can throw some stuff at him that he's not going to be used to seeing or comfortable seeing. You know, it's going to sound like blasphemy. I live in Des Moines, Iowa. For those of you that don't know, there's a lot of Iowa State and Iowa fans here that are rooting on the Purdy Niners, you know, coming into the Super Bowl here. I just have a feeling that the Chiefs defense can do enough to get him uncomfortable, especially getting uncomfortable early and make him question what he's seeing. You saw some of the stuff that they've pulled out over the last few weeks that I've seen highlighted in clips on Twitter, how the Chiefs rotated to, you know, from a single high back to 2, back to, you know, like the different things that they've done in the secondary that he's just not going to be that prepared for. On top of just Chris Jones should be on one, right? Should be playing the game of his life coming up the middle. Sure, Omenihu will be missing, and I think that'll be a difference. He was definitely a difference maker. So we're not sure what we're going to get from the other pass rushers, but this 49ers offensive line has one elite player and a whole bunch of other guys. And I think the Chiefs pass rush, especially with as varied as they can get, can be a difference maker against Brock Purdy.
Yeah, and real quick, I do want to give these stats because this is from Connor Allen, NFL on Twitter. He had some good stats before this game. Brock Purdy has played against 2 top 5 defenses this season, Cleveland and Baltimore. The Cleveland game, he went 12 of 27 for 125 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. They only scored 17 points. Against Baltimore, he only completed 56% of his passes, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and the Niners scored just 12 points before he left the game. Those are kind of the 2 bad spots on his resume. And look, the Chiefs defense is in that class of elite with these other teams. I mean, they've proven it this playoff run, and they are for the most part healthy without Omenihu. But like you just mentioned, I do think they can make it work without him because Trent Williams really is that centerpiece to their pass protection. And the Chiefs have the scheme to kind of maybe waste them a little bit, right? Like put Mike Dana or Felix Enrique-Uzama, who will be in for Omenihu on some of these pass rush packages. Yeah. Put one of those 2 over Trent Williams and just let him stunt inside or even just waste himself by, working around the edge. Just you're wasting their best blocker and you're allowing your best pass rushers to manipulate the other 4 guys. And I think that's the best way to do it. And I think Felix, honestly, I've tweeted this out. I think he has in his play time this season, he has shown an ability to fire out and really get that leverage inside of an offensive lineman's shoulder and really do pry into pocket a little bit from the front. And so I think that is something that he could do in this game is maybe create some front of the pocket pressure by jetting inside off the snap and kind of running into the Niners guard or center from that left side. So watch for Felix to maybe be more of a battering ram on Sunday.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept to use to, it's like you got fouls to give in basketball. A lot of times that was me. Was the guy with fouls to give. You're just going to throw somebody at Trent Williams that you don't believe is actually going to win that matchup, but somebody that they can just keep running his way, keep him busy, and let your stars go up against the lesser players. I think you've got George Karlaftis and Chris Jones who can get home in a lot of situations against their matchups if Jones is inside, if Jones is moving between the center and the guards and elsewhere. So I like that concept. It's not super kind to Felix Anudike-Uzama. It's like, hey, we were excited about drafting you and you haven't had much of an opportunity all season. Welcome to the Super Bowl. Your job is to run into the gut of the best left tackle in the league and probably get buried 3 or 4 times during this game. But it'll help us win, so get out there.
Yeah, no, it'll be
rough.
It'll be a thankless job. It will definitely be a thankless job. But that's the thing is, in the Ravens game, after Omenihu went out, they were starting to put Jones more on the right edge of the left edge of the offense. And I just don't want them to waste Chris Jones's talents going up against Trent Williams. Because I do think as an edge rusher, Chris Jones probably doesn't have the same ability to beat Trent Williams, and even though it's an all-pro versus an all-pro. And I do think Trent Williams could probably lock that up. And so yeah, just waste him. Dana's probably going to be the one doing it the most, but I think Felix has, is a little bit bigger of a body, maybe. Maybe not. Dana's, I guess, pretty built by now. But, maybe the length, right? He has a little bit more length to him. Maybe he can kind of pry himself into the pocket more a few times. And so, yeah, watch for them. But let's go to the other side because you talked about, that first it was kind of, there's all this Mahomes, then it's Brock Purdy. Mahomes is here in his 4th Super Bowl, and he's on a historic stretch of playing clean football. He now has the most consecutive playoff games in NFL history without an interception. That is 6 in a row, minimum 20 pass attempts in those games. And so he is going up against the 49ers passing or a pass defense, in that back 7 that, we're going to talk about the linebackers, but the cornerbacks and safeties are nothing really to write home about. You know, Travarius Ward earned a Pro Bowl or All Pro status this year. You know, he's definitely still someone I think they can take advantage of, and you know, guys like, you know, Rashee Rice, you know, even can maybe make some plays against. So yeah, I'm pretty good about Mahomes going up against this back end, and maybe being able to exploit them. And so yeah, I think that's another key part of this matchup is the 49. They're banged up, and their safety Hufanga, he's a great player. He was injured earlier this season, is not playing. So they're down to a few backups in the secondary stacks.
Yeah, again, I'll take Mahomes against any secondary. I'm not really going to say like there's especially after after they beat the Ravens, I'm not really going to say any defense is going to be too much for Mahomes to handle. But like Dan Orlovsky pointed out on Twitter, there's some really specific ways that the Chiefs are likely to attack this 49ers defense. And it comes in a really simple formation. And I want you to explain the X's and O's a little bit, if you don't mind. But I think it was a really good insight from Orlovsky to point out how the Chiefs can put these defenders in no-win situations that are designed to either free up Travis Kelce or leave somebody else completely wide open. If those are your two options as a defense, let Travis Kelce beat you or leave MVS, Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco completely on their own. It feels like not much of a win situation for defenses. And Mahomes, you're right, is on a different level with his decision making right now. And I trust him, implicitly to move this team up and down the field without putting the ball in harm's way. The way he's played, especially in this playoff run, he knows the deal. He's been there. There's nothing that's going to flap him or shake him at this point. So it's going to be fun to watch him just pick apart this 49ers defense in ways that maybe they just don't have great answers for.
Right, exactly. Dan Orlovsky talked about the sail concept, which is basically a 3-route concept. It's kind of like a flood, right? A flood concept is basically where you're attacking each level of the defense to the sideline at one time. So you have a player in the flat, you have a player in the intermediate, 10 to 15 yards, and then you have a deep player. And so the sail concept is a specific type where that outside player is getting vertical, that inside player is getting vertical and then getting to the intermediate, and that's usually where Kelce is. He's that intermediate out. And so against a heavy cover 3 team, I don't know if they're heavy cover 3, but they play a lot of one high, trusting a guy like Travarius Ward to have that deep third, right? When they do that, that puts that cornerback in a bind. Does he come off that deep receiver to pick up Kelce? Does he stick with the deep receiver and trust his flat? And a lot of times he does have to stick with the deep receiver because then you're allowing that guy to just get deep. And so it comes on the flat defender now. Is that flat defender going to get enough depth to take away Kelce, or is he going to overreact to Pacheco coming into the flat? If he does take away Kelce, then Pacheco has an open space to the flat where he has momentum. Even if the flat defender does come up after that, Pacheco's going to run him over probably. And so that's where it becomes a really nice concept. But even if the Niners overflow, because that's the thing is they could overcommit, right? Fred Warner could really sell out to get out to Kelce and really take him away from the inside. That's something the Chiefs have to, when you're running this route to Kelce, that out route, you have to hit it quickly so that linebacker doesn't get all the way over there. If Fred Warner sells out, because he can, he's a great player. Well, what do you know? We have Rashee Rice on the backside running an isolated route over the middle. Then you leave that open, boom. Then that's another route. So it really is what you talked about, where it's just kind of pick your poison. And if you don't have talented DBs, talented safeties, talented cornerbacks, it makes it even harder because a lot of it's anticipation. The Chiefs also run these plays out of different looks. Like you don't know it's coming because it's not like they run the same formation. It's they're going to shake it up. They're going to motion into it. So it's a great pull by Dan because it definitely is a play that the Chiefs love to use, and it's a play that definitely takes advantage of the Niners, the way they run defense specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that scenario you just said where they leave Rashee Rice unguarded or with lots of space because the linebacker's selling out, that might be the best case scenario in that route concept. Ironically, I think the most likely scenario is that gets Kelce some good opportunities, especially if the Chiefs are able to hit one of the deep shots early.
Mhm.
If you come into this game and there's no threat of that deep player, if they're not even attempting to throw the ball down the field, like they were in the second half of the game against the Ravens, there was no chance they were throwing deep until that very final play, of course. But I think they have to have some threat that in that route concept, that deep player is a threat, right? Otherwise, they can sell out on Kelsey without worrying about MVS or whoever's running that deep concept. It's going to be MVS or Watson, most likely, right? And
Yeah.
so
Right.
I think I would love to see the Chiefs connect on a deep shot relatively early out of that concept just to make sure it's on the table, freeing up kind of everything else.
Yeah, and if they're smart, they'd maybe attack the other side. And Ambry Thomas is the Niners' other outside corner because Trevarius Ward is good. He is familiar with the Chiefs. I mean, there's a chance that he knows Mahomes' tendencies. I'm reaching a little bit for sure. But
I mean,
Ambry Thomas on the other
tendencies too.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. Exactly. Right. And so, but Ambry Thomas on the other side is a little bit more exploitable. I think that's someone that they could really put in a pretzel in that concept. But let's also talk about
what I think this highlights is it's really the Chiefs offensive coaching staff.
Yeah.
Versus the talent of the 49ers defense that is going to make or break this game in a lot of ways. It's Andy Reid versus Nick Bosa. And we've seen it in the past. The scales were tipped in Andy Reid's favor last time they played. Nick Bosa had no clue where he was supposed to be going because they found ways to put him in those no-win situations and put him in the same look multiple times that end up in different ways, different directions. Those are situations that are intentional, that are schematic, that are coaching based more so than talent based. So, what are some other things that Andy Reid can do to this Niners defense and specifically Nick Bosa this week? Because I think that's going to be a fun matchup again.
Yeah, and I am going to have an article up. I haven't gotten the work done on it yet, but I'm going to rewatch the 2022 game and see what we can take away there. Because one of the big key takeaways is how they manipulated Nick Bosa with screen passes, with misdirection, with pre-snap motion, quick hitting motion, those jet sweeps, leaving him unblocked. You're going to see that in this game as well. And it should be Andy Reid versus Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. because I had this fear going in the Ravens game, like, hey, Roquan Smith's a good linebacker, but you make this point all the time, and it's just kind of a microcosm of it. But it doesn't matter how good your linebacker is, like, because Andy Reid is so good at manipulating their eyes, manipulating their responsibilities, making them respect one thing and realizing, oh shoot, that's making me give up this. It's not about really if you're a bad or good linebacker. Honestly, sometimes I think the best linebackers might get manipulated even more because they are so key to, like, okay, I know I have to do this, and Andy Reid knows, hey, I know he's going to go do this, so I'm going to make him think that, and then boom. So there's so many things here that I think if you have a all 11 talented defense, I think it makes it really hard for Andy to have those kind of things where he's scheming up against one guy. But he does this against Max Crosby. He does this against these one-off players on these defenses, and that's kind of what you have here, where Nick Bosa, Fred Warner are great players. Around them, not so great. So if you really manipulate them and let the other and let your players just take care of the rest, it might just be lights out there. So I'm feeling good that Andy Reid's got stuff cooked up. Like I mentioned, again, the misdirection, jet sweeps. It's just going to be a bunch of different movement and making Bosa and Fred Warner think once, twice, three times a play.
Yeah. You got to slow those guys down. You got to give them something to think about. Nick Bosa can wreck a game. I think he had 2 sacks last week and 4 quarterback hits, if I remember right, in their playoff matchup against the Lions.
Something like that.
This is a player that is, not just all pro, but he is, defensive player of the year caliber. And so it's somebody you got to be aware of. But I do trust the Chiefs' scheme and their ability to target him. And I'll be watching that. It'll be a lot of fun. What about on the running game? Because this is something that the Chiefs haven't historically been known for, or this version of the Chiefs haven't historically been known for. But there's been some emphasis on being able to run the football against, some really good defenses in the playoffs, especially. Will they continue to give Pacheco the opportunity to pound the football and run through the turf in Vegas?
They should, because if you watch the Niners, they've given up 182 rushing yards, 139 rushing yards these last 2 weeks. It's definitely something that they can be exploited with. Their interior defensive line, for having the names they do, they don't really have anybody too stout, too, where they're going to eat up gaps and really be hard to move from a run lane. They have Javon Hargrave, they have Javon Kinlaw, they have Eric Armstead. These guys that can kind of eat up space or make plays from inside, but not really as run defenders. I really think those guys like Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey can kind of take advantage of those guys and pave the way. And if we've seen anything from this playoff about these offensive tackles, it's that they're at their best when you're asking them to run block. I mean, Jawan Taylor has been an awesome down blocker, really creating separation on those off tackle runs. And so I think you got to continue to do that. Continue to let your offensive line, own the game, own the line of scrimmage. And that's only going to help them when they're blocking and pass protection too. So, I think the Chiefs really should come out and run the ball and try to at least effectively.
And using some of those power concepts, some of those, get
right.
Creed Humphrey out and pulling, and Trey Humphrey out.
Oh yeah,
or Trey Smith out pulling. Like those guys are a lot. It's a lot of fun whenever those things start to work, and the timing is there, and they're out there moving, leveling guys in space. I mean, that's something I think you can do against this team, and I think it helps them control the game. They really controlled the game against the Ravens, and if they can do a similar formula, get a touchdown or two early whenever they have the scripted plays, and then be able to sort of grind it out, control this game, not give the 49ers any hope. I feel like that's a formula that will continue to work for this Chiefs team.
Absolutely. No, yeah, and that's the thing is, like, it is something that the 49ers have struggled with. So, it's like two kind of like, someone's ascending, someone's like, it's just a perfect kind of marriage, right? Like the Chiefs run game is powering up, the 49ers run defense is cool, is powering down. So just got to attack it.
Absolutely. Well, it's about time to hear from our sponsor, so we'll take a little break here. On our way out, Ron usually has a trivia question for me, like what NFL player am I that played for both the Chiefs and the 49ers? We had one last week, so I'm going to give it back to Ron, and I foreshadowed this last week, so you've had a whole week to prepare. Ron, I'm going to ask you the question this week. I'm a quarterback that played for the 49ers and the Chiefs. Ron's answer after this. Stick with us on the Out of Structure podcast. And we're back on the Out of Structure podcast, Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network, with your Super Bowl bound Kansas City Chiefs. Lots to talk about here. Your questions are coming up soon. My question for Ron was, what NFL player am I? Someone who played for both the Chiefs and the 49ers. And the only hint I'm willing to give this time is that it was a quarterback that played for both teams. And there's been a number of them, and I want to hear how many, first of all, can you name, and can you guess the one that I was thinking of?
Well, I'm just going to rattle them off. So, I'm going to start with classic Joe Montana, right? We that's the old school. Let's go with Elvis Gerbach. I know he played for both of them in the 90s. Obviously, Alex Smith is the easy one as well. We know that one. Blaine Gabbert did play for the Niners as well. We got to give him credit. New chief. Steve DeBerg, did he play for the Niners as well? Yes. Okay. Whew. I don't know. That one was a little iffy to me. Okay. Steve DeBerg. How about Bono? Oh my gosh. Wow. Look at me. Bono played for the Niners.
You've named 6 of the 7.
Oh my gosh!
Just according to this article that I found online, because I didn't remember this 7th guy either.
Oh man! Oh man! Oh man! It is. Oh no! I don't know. Who is it?
I believe it was prior to your birth, if that helps.
I already said Bono and DeBerg. Golly,
there's no way you're going to get this. There's zero chance because it's not a known name. According to this article that I just found on the old Googler as we were talking from KNBC.com, he threw 1 pass for the Chiefs in his career, and then started one game for the 49ers in 1987.
87. Oh no. Chiefs random quarterback.
Just give up. This is ridiculous. Bob Gagliano.
Oh wow, what a name.
Yeah.
What a name.
All right, so those are the 7. Which one was I thinking about? And it wasn't Bob Gagliano, for the record.
I'm gonna say you were thinking about Bono. I don't know how to say his name.
No, but that's a good guess. I was thinking of the man with the pinky, the steel pinky, Steve DeBerg. So,
see, yeah, that was the 2 I was thinking you were. Okay.
The king of the playoff, the king of the play action pass, and the man with the broken pinky. 4 seasons with the Chiefs, had a winning record right before Joe Montana. So, anyway, I remember the Steve DeBerg era fondly, with all its limitations and all of his limitations. But yeah, 7 quarterbacks have played for both teams so far, and I'm sure there'll be more.
No, you're not kidding about the bootleg. I love that old clip of him just completely running by himself 50 yards downfield because the defense was still thinking he handed out the ball. I mean, the
Steve Bono bootleg is epic. Absolutely. All right. Let's get to some mailbag questions, because there's always good ones from our friends who listen every single time. We really appreciate you guys with the questions on Twitter, with the email to our Gmail box. Jake Wilson at Jake for now. Which 49ers player would be more fun to watch as an addition to the Chiefs roster, George Kittle or Kyle Juszczyk? Well, because we're the Out of Structure podcast and we don't necessarily have to follow any certain set of rules, we're going to take Jake's question here and make it into a 3-round draft. Each of us get 3 picks from the 49ers roster to add to the Chiefs roster. And you'll see from our draft which one of those guys we'd prefer. And if you don't, then we can answer this question after we do our 3-round draft. Ron, I'll give you the honors of the first round pick.
Oh, wow.
49ers players to add to the Chiefs roster. And you get bonus points if you tell me who they replace.
Oh, this is easy. This is the number 1 pick is so easy. It's Trent Williams. If you're not picking Trent Williams to replace Donovan Smith, I mean, what are we doing? I mean, this offensive line all of a sudden is just unstoppable. So Trent Williams, absolutely.
All right, give me Christian McCaffrey over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. As much as I love Clyde, having McCaffrey and Pacheco on this team would just be would be ridiculous.
That's a good one. That is tough because Trent Williams, he makes the offensive line better, but CMC is just like all world difference maker as an overall player, and you still have Pacheco,
and you still have the initial. You could still do a 3-letter acronym that starts with a C here, so
and that's important.
CEH to CMC is a logical transition. I'm gonna guess that you're pretty happy with how the board fell for your next pick, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely feeling good about my selections, but that's the thing is the Chiefs defense, as much as we could put, somebody in there for them, they've been playing so well. I think I'm going to go ahead and pick Kittle on the offensive side again. Let's just soup up the offense. I'm feeling good about my defense. Because there's some players you can add there, but let's go Kittle. To replace Noah Gray.
Okay. Not Bell, huh? I think Kittle over.
I mean, geez, like that feels like cheating. Like, all right, yeah, I'll replace Kittle with Bell.
Yeah, that would be fun. All right. I mean, we haven't got there yet. So how about Nick Bosa for the injured Charles Omenihu?
Right, because that's the thing. It's like they could definitely use another edge rusher, if they really want to, make the defense all the way there for this game. But
also, that would be unfair to take somebody who's not even playing this week and replace him with first team All-Pro. But hey, no rules here.
No, we're doing this. So from here, it does become tough, but No, I think I'm just going to continue souping up the offense. Let's just go crazy. I want Brandon Ayuk on my team in place of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You know, we'll sacrifice the deep ball because, you know, Ayuk's not as much like a, you know, he's not going to like burn the guys deep, right? He's much more of a, you know, but I'm going to go ahead and take Ayuk, even though, yeah, you had it. Yeah, go ahead. I might have overthought this one a little bit.
You already know where I'm going here. We've got the final pick of this 3-round draft. Amazingly, is Deebo Samuel taking the spot.
My thing is Rasheed is Deebo, right? Like he's a bigger Deebo. I think we got our Deebo. You know,
I'll take another one. Over, you know, Kadarius Toney, Mecole Hardman, Sky Moore, whoever you want to take off of the wide receiver room that's already sort of out of the receiver room. That's a good one. Yeah, that would be pretty fun. To get back to Jake's original question, that was a good draft. You've got Williams, Kittle, and Ayuk. I've got McCaffrey, Bosa, and Deebo Samuel. Like, either way, those are star-studded lineups. All right, just quickly, Kittle or Juszczyk. I think we answered that by not even drafting Juszczyk in this draft. I think Kittle plus Kelsey is just laughable. Like, what do you even do with that? It's hilarious.
Yeah. Like Juszczyk is a fun piece for Andy Reid to have, but it's not the dominant piece that George Kittle would be, because George Kittle can do some of the same stuff Juszczyk can as a fullback if they really wanted to. So yeah, Kittle and Kelsey together would be unfair.
There's no way that the NFL script writers would ever let that happen. That's outrageous. All right, thanks for the question, Jake. How about critically thinking's question here? Getting back to X's and O's and schematically analyzing this game, the Chiefs seem to have a lot of success against the Ravens' zone defense. Do the 49ers play more man or more zone? If it's zone, is the type of success can they replicate that type of success?
Well, that's the thing, is the Niners do play quite a bit of zone. Connor Allen, NFL, I already referenced him. He has this thread that's really with some really good stats. And he mentions that the 49ers defense rushes 4 on 80% of their rushes, and they play zone defense on 75+% of their plays. That's a large majority, you know. And so the thing is, he kind of mentions here too that Patrick Mahomes has actually been bad against zone this year. He has the second most interceptions against 4-man rush zone defenses this year. And it's like, oh boy, wow, do you zone them up? But I think we've all seen this offense evolve this year where they have gotten kind of past that. I think they really have evolved from, okay, these receivers are not understanding how to settle into zone windows, are not understanding how to run the routes well. Kopp, Sky Moore, and Kadarius Toney, they're not on the field anymore. And all of a sudden, this team looks better overall. Their pass game looks better. Rashee Rice has improved dramatically as a zone window sitter, as, you know, finding the right windows. And so I don't think the stats mean as much, but to answer critically thinking's question, I absolutely think, yeah, the success is replicable, especially because the zone defenders the Niners have are not the same zone defenders the Ravens had in terms of a Kyle Hamilton. That guy was all over the place, and he had a great game, and the Chiefs still exploited him. I think Fred Warner could have a good game, but there's only so much you can do as that middle linebacker. The 49ers can be exploited at cornerback and safety in those zone defenses. So, yeah, I think the success is absolutely replicable.
Yeah, it seems like a matchup they can exploit. I think the Chiefs have the players to do that. And I think that it's going to be something to watch. If they do try to go man against the Chiefs, do they have anybody? This is a dumb question. There's nobody that's going to cover Travis Kelce man to man. I mean, Fred Warner is a really good linebacker in coverage, but I don't know that
he could. But then you're just But then, you know, then you're just kind of taking away him from kind of his main responsibility of kind of taking up all this space in the middle of the field and making, you know, Mahomes' life hard. So then he's just going to find Rice. He's just going to find, Pacheco. He's just, you know, it's going to be a game where, if the 49ers man up, they just don't have the horses, right, to keep up with the Chiefs, in my opinion, in man coverage. Even though, again, the Chiefs pass receivers aren't like, it's not like they have Tyreek and Hill and all these things, but the 49ers just coverage just banged up and not that good overall.
All right. Kyle Seitz at Aim Down Sites. Who would be the most likely Super Bowl MVP if it's not Patrick Mahomes? Obviously, we're going to assume a Chiefs victory here, and then it's somebody on the Chiefs that would be the MVP, because I don't want to talk about other scenarios like that. Who else other than Mahomes could end up being the MVP here? I tell you what, we're going to get to some prop bets in a minute, but I found some that were pretty hilarious on the MVP options. The obvious choice would probably be Travis Kelce, right? Like Travis Kelce is a guy that can put up 2 or 3 touchdowns, and really one of them maybe is the game winner. You could see a scenario where he's the MVP.
Yeah, and he's plus 1,200 odds on DraftKings right now. The second best Chiefs player behind Mahomes, who is plus 125, the favorite for the entire game. But Pacheco, we talked about the 49ers soft run defense as well, right? Pacheco's plus 2,800. He's the third player for the Chiefs. That's not bad odds. Running backs do have won the Super Bowl MVP before, just because it is a one-off thing. And if the run game really is the key to the win, it's not like they're going to give it to the offensive lineman, right? Or they're not going to give it to the play calling. They'll give it to the running back.
Just on that note, offensive linemen, if you could bet all offensive linemen plus 25,000 on DraftKings right now.
Man, Trey Smith would have to really come out just kicking some butt. I mean that's one guy I could see doing it.
They'd have to score a touchdown, right?
That's true. That's true.
If it was a 7-0 game and Trey Smith had the one touchdown, then maybe. To that point, yeah, I can see Pacheco. But what about somebody on defense? You think Chris Jones could be the MVP of the Super Bowl?
He's plus 10,000 odds, which that's ridiculous. And so when you put it that way, he might be worth the bet. And the Niners offensive line, again, if the Spags schemes it up like we kind of talked about, where Chris Jones is on these other offensive linemen and Trent Williams is being wasted, he's going to take advantage of them. They don't have the strongest group out of those 4. And he was part of the reason they disrupted the 49ers offense last time they played in the Super Bowl. And he didn't get the sack then, but I think a lot of people, national media too, recognized him being a very impactful part of that game. So I do think there'll be eyes on him on defense, seeing how impactful he's being. So it's a good bet.
Yeah. I think for him to get it just in the voters' eyes, he'd have to have some stats, right? He'd have to have a sack,
right?
Strip sack, fumble, batted ball interception, something. But what I like about that bet is that Chris Jones has shown to be a very, very clutch player, and he can help close this game out. And that if the defense is the story of the game, and Chris Jones has back-to-back sacks in the final drive to close this game out, I think you give him some consideration there for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm not sure anybody else on defense has a real good chance at it. Yeah. L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie.
I will say it is weird. In Super Bowl history, there have been a few times where a guy just has a pick six and he gets the MVP because he had a pick six. It is very odd. Like it actually drives me crazy as like when I look back at as a fan, it's just like there's just a few times where it's just like, really? He had like the Seahawks when they won against the Broncos. Their linebacker Malcolm Smith was the MVP because he had like 10 tackles and a pick six. Like, what? Percy Harvin? You guys, they won 43-8. Anyway.
Yeah. So what about last year? Nick Bolton last year, right? Had a touchdown, had another one that was nearly a touchdown.
Yeah.
If a defensive player gets 2 touchdowns, I'm listening. Like, I think Nick Bolton probably should have been in the conversation for MVP last year, even with that second touchdown not counting. But if it had counted, boy, I think that'd be worth talking about for sure.
For sure, because those game-changing plays, so I get that. But yeah, it's like I think in the 90s, a Cowboys cornerback who had 1 pick six on, Neil O'Donnell got the Super Bowl MVP. It's like Emmitt Smith didn't deserve it. Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to the quarterback almost every time, especially when the quarterback has legendary status like Patrick Mahomes does. So I think the odds are strongly against that one. Did you see the odds for you see the odds for Rashee Rice, by the way?
Plus 5,000. So he is the fourth chief on the list behind Kelsey, Pacheco, and Mahomes.
I don't expect it, but man, that'd be fun to see, right?
Yeah, no, I honestly don't expect it. Well, I mean, obviously we can't expect it, but I think it's really either Kelsey, Mahomes, or Pacheco on offense. I think those three are the ones that'll get it.
But hey, if you got money laying around that you're tired of looking at, throw $10 on the offensive lineman plus 25,000, or kicker, punter, long snapper might actually be a better bet because you can get the entire position group, kicker, punter, long snapper, for plus 15,000 odds. And this could be a Harrison Butker game. This could be a game where the kicker makes enough of a difference. If you have a guy that kicks 5 field goals and one of them is as time expires to win the game, I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibilities. It's more likely than Trey Smith scoring the only game-winning touchdown.
Yes, I would say so. And yeah, I mean, we've seen this offense stall out in the red zone plenty of times, right? So if, let's say, it's disaster mode where they just continue to stall out and they need all these field goals and no one on offense truly deserves it, but the Niners still on the defense, one on the defense really deserves it. There is a path for sure. There is definitely a path to the kicker winning.
I love the long shot prop bets, and we have a few more of those to talk about. But we'd be remiss if we didn't get to Jake Wilson's question from last week, which we saved for this week specifically because we're looking forward to the Super Bowl right now. We're looking forward to all the things that come along with the Super Bowl. And I know my wife and I are hosting a party. We're going to have 30-some people here. Jake's question here is turning the Super Bowl party menu into a draft as well. Now, he set this up with a list of items in each round to choose from. And I think the way that I read this is you have to pick one of these in each of these rounds, but you have one write-in total for the 4-round draft. So you're going to go 4 rounds here, and you only once do you get to pick something that's not on the list that we read. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
All right. The first round, we've got clearly the appetizer round. You've got onion dip. Is that like French onion dip? Is that the assumption there?
Yeah. Yes. That is how I'd interpret it.
French onion dip, hummus, queso, or salsa. Or you could obviously use this as your write-in. For your dip, to go with chips, obviously, to start off this thing, what's your first pick?
Yeah, I'm sticking with his options here. I think he's given us a good little spread. And I'm going queso. I'm a big queso guy. White queso. Hopefully, I think that's the better of it. Get those tortilla chips. But yeah, I just love me some good cheese. I'm a cheese guy.
Yeah, queso was definitely the favorite for that round. That was the highest ranking player. I'm going to go with French onion dip. My wife, to her credit, found a recipe for homemade French onion dip.
Oh wow!
She roast the onions herself and then puts it in there. That's pretty good. You can't beat chips and dip. I think is a good safe bet for your first round either way. So we'll start there. Ron, I'll let you read the choices for round 2. We'll do this a snake style draft.
Yeah, here we go. Sweet potato fries, grilled Caesar salad, or grandma's slaw. So this is kind of a side, kind of maybe your, your kind of, your side, I guess. What do you got?
I'm going to take a write-in here because I like those things. I would eat all 3 of those items. But when I'm putting together the Super Bowl menu here, I don't know that any of those is going to make the cut for me. So I'm going to be just to be a jerk here. I'm going to steal your pick, which I already know is mac and cheese.
Oh,
We're taking the mac and cheese. You took the queso the first time. You can't go.
You set me up. You set me up, making me take the first round.
You can't go cheese and then cheese anyway. I got the mac and cheese for my second round pick. What's your second round pick?
Yeah, I guess you're right. I'll save the digestion system a little bit and not go cheese back to back. But I am going to do a write in here too, honestly, because I'm not a huge fan of any three options as well. And I'll have to switch up my write in because it's not what I was originally going to go with. I'll go with deviled eggs. They get slept on, but I love me some deviled eggs, man. I will eat up some deviled eggs. I used to not like them, but they're good. Perfect little side.
Yeah, I did not see you going deviled eggs there. I was surprised at that choice. On to round 3. And again, we're doing this snake style, so that means you get the next pick. This is the meat option here, and he's starting off with something out of left field as far as I'm concerned: smoked meatloaf.
Yeah, that's
smoked chicken, pulled pork, or burn ends, or a write in, of course. Ryan, you get the pick of the litter here. This is a tough one. They're all good.
I know, yeah, smoked meatloaf. I'd love to try that. Honestly, I don't think I've ever had smoked meatloaf.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But it's tough. This one is tough for me because I do have 2 of them that I'm really eyeing here that I really, really love to eat. Either of them, one of them. Oh man, it's hard to ever say no to. But if the other one's done right, it's just, oh man, it's so good, and I could eat it all day. I'm gonna go ahead and go burn ends. I gotta go with burn ends here.
I knew you were gonna take that. That was definitely my choice of that list. I'm gonna bend the rules a little bit here, just because I can.
Sure.
Jake said smoked chicken here. I'm gonna extrapolate that and assume that includes wings. So I've got smoked chicken wings. This is pretty close to my actual menu for the party that we're having. Smoked chicken wings as the meat option here. I do love a good pulled pork.
Yeah, that was my other option, pulled pork.
But for a Kansas City game, burn ends is the right choice. Wings, it's just a good backup plan. All right.
What do we do here? Round 4?
Round 4. We've each already used our write-in. So just to make this challenging, you got to take one more option that we haven't used yet on this rest of this menu.
As your pick first, technically.
Round 4 pick. All right, so I've got the onion dip, mac and cheese, and the smoked chicken wings. I'm going to come right back with pulled pork.
Oh my god!
Because if you're going to double up on the smoked meats, especially for a Kansas City Super Bowl.
Yeah, dang! You took all the meats. I don't have any more meats to take. I gotta go like vegan here for our freaking Super Bowl party. Gosh, because that's the thing. Like sweet potato fries just aren't really my thing. I'm not a huge sweet potato guy. I love me some fries, but the sweet potato kind, I'm just not gonna mess with really much. So, and I hate slaw. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like coleslaw. I just don't. So we're just going to go dip heavy here, I guess, because I'll do some salsa. I mean, we already got the queso. We got the tortilla chips. So I'll just do salsa and we'll have a good dip time. I love me some dip. I'll eat chips all day.
Yeah, chips and salsa, chips and queso, that goes well together. Deviled eggs is an odd choice, I think, but then you have burn ends.
Oh, man, you're sleeping on deviled eggs, man. I can eat 15 of those.
Don't recommend that for the folks at home. But
would not.
All right. Well, that's fun, man. I'm looking forward to eating my way through the Super Bowl. Again, our menu here is going to be some smoked wings, some mac and cheese. We got some baked beans coming and some cinnamon apples, kind of like the hot applesauce sort of deal. Lots of chips and dips, and some desserts. Got a big crowd coming. I think everybody's bringing something. It should be a good time. How do you take in the Super Bowl? Because since we're not in Vegas.
Well, I have a few responsibilities for the site, so your boy will be locked in and just kind of live blogging at my house with the wife. So no Super Bowl party for us, but that's the thing. In Kansas City, once that wind drops, I'm downtown, man. I'm ruining my Monday morning because I'm gonna go celebrate with the people.
Are you at Power and Light in that outdoor area where everybody is? Or you always see that?
That's
on
the
ESPN?
epicenter. It usually seems like that's the epicenter of the after, but a few hours after the game, it's just all over the city. Like it's just everywhere. I mean, the streets are just filled. It's awesome. It's such a good time.
Again, in our experience of celebrating Super Bowls in this town, there's actually a pattern. There's a history here. All right. Before we wrap this up, there's more prop bets out there for the Super Bowl than for literally anything else ever. I was cracking up on some of these, went way down a rabbit hole, finding a ton of different prop bets. Of course, there's the Taylor Swift themed ones. It looks like DraftKings went down this whole rabbit hole of using Taylor Swift song titles and building a bet around those. So there was one called Wildest Dreams, which would be Travis Kelce scoring the game's first and the game's last touchdown, which I think could actually hit. That would be a fun one. There's Shake It Off, which is the 49ers score first, but the Chiefs end up winning the game.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Something that could happen. How about Deja Vu from the last Super Bowl? The Chiefs win by exactly 11 points. I think this is pretty unlikely. 11 points is not a real common score. 28-17.
You would be surprised. 24 to 13, 27, 16.
They're given plus 3,000 odds on this particular bet. So that's a relatively long shot. Any of those that you'd be inclined to actually bet from the Taylor Swift?
The Shake It Off for sure. Because I do think the Chiefs come out hot, but in the case that the Niners get the ball first and they go down and score, I just think that's great odds to get.
There'll be no panic from the Chiefs, and that's what I like about that. They also do this thing about jersey numbers, which was fun. The jersey number for the player that scores the first touchdown of this game, is that jersey number over or under 22.5?
This is almost stealing money. Because look at all the playmakers for each side. You got Pacheco, you got Rice, you got Mahomes on the Chiefs, but then you also have Deebo Samuel, you have Christian McCaffrey, you have Brandon Ayuk, and then the quarterbacks each, right? Purdy is 13. A lot of players under 22.5, and they set that number because McCaffrey's number at 22. So it really would just be Kelce and Kittle, right? So I like those odds, man. I'll take those odds.
Sticking with jersey numbers, this one will twist your brain around with the math. It's going to look like a beautiful mind with the little formulas up on the glass. Combined touchdown scorers for the whole game, the jersey numbers of those guys, over or under 121.5.
Man, the math here is just, I don't want to do it, but if it's Kelce scores, it's a big chunk of it. So I guess that's all you're really.
Kelce and Kittle score, it's over. You could go Kelce plus McCaffrey plus Pacheco, it'd still be under.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
That's fun math.
Here's one that I love. I got a good laugh out of it just because it's dumb. The coin toss, whether it's going to be heads or tails, the odds on this are a coin flip. So
good,
believe it or not.
Some places try to make it minus 105 for the coin toss, which it's like, who would ever bet that?
That was ridiculous. All right, how about some combos here that I think are fun. Jerick McKinnon scores a touchdown and the Chiefs win is plus 1,000. Would you rather have that or Justin Ross scores a touchdown plus the Chiefs win at plus 6,000?
Yeah, the odds are juicy, right? But you'd take the McKinnon touchdown because it's actually likely, or more likely, maybe. I guess I should say. That is the thing against Miami. Justin Ross took the field in the red zone a few times, and then we haven't seen him the last couple of games, so it is kind of weird. But McKinnon, if he's in the game, he's going to be playing.
And if he's going to be playing, he's going to be playing in the red zone, and he's going to have a chance to score. So that'll happen. Travis Kelce, 3 or more touchdowns is plus 2,000. You like that one?
That's tough. I like it, but the odds aren't as good as they could be.
How about this one? How many yards is the first touchdown pass thrown for Brock Purdy? And this is a would you rather. Would you rather do Brock Purdy over under 13 and a half yards for his first touchdown pass, or Patrick Mahomes over under 7.5 yards for his first touchdown pass?
Yeah, it's funny to me. But I guess it just speaks to how much we get into the red zone. I would take Mahomes just because of the lower number, honestly. Like, you just get better odds. You know, he throws a touchdown 8 yards away. Yeah, I'll take that.
I mean, the Chiefs defense has been pretty good at keeping teams out of the red zone. So I think a lot of the touchdowns have been a little bit longer against the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, right. No, that is a good point.
And Mahomes does score a lot of those, 1 to 2 yard touchdown passes because they can't seem to figure out that they can just run the ball in those situations. That's an interesting one. How about Mahomes passing yardage over under 260.5?
Man, I'm gonna go under, even being optimistic about the Chiefs, just because, first of all, if they run the ball well, they won't need to pass it very much. But Mahomes has barely hit 260. He only hit it once this postseason, and he had 262 against Miami. So, it's not something they've needed to do. And I think they're going to win, in a similar fashion as they have been winning. So I'm going to say under.
How about MVS receiving yards? Actually, I got 3 over-unders on receiving here. MVS is 19.5. Rashee Rice, 66.5. Or Travis Kelce at 70.5. Which of those 3 would you rather bet on?
It is tough because I feel like Kelce or Rice, it's for Kelce or Rice, I feel like it might kind of be one or the other in terms of who gets over that. And the other one might just be maybe 40, 50, 60 yards, not quite all the way there. But I might just take MVS just because, we've seen him and Mahomes' chemistry get better. MVS is going to be the guy that is going to be running those vertical routes, and all he needs is one big catch. And he had that long touchdown against the Niners in the regular season last year. It was like a 50-yard bomb. So look for MVS.
Could you imagine if you bet the under on this the last Chiefs game, and then MVS catches a pass to run out the clock?
Oh man,
yeah. It's got to just be devastating to be a big better on these types of prop bets. How about rushing yards? McCaffrey's over-under is 90.5, which I think is really high given this Chiefs defense. Pacheco's is 65.5 for reference here. Would you rather bet on McCaffrey going over 90.5 or Pacheco going over 65.5?
Yeah, I would rather bet on Pacheco, not just because it's the lower number, but there's a chance this Chiefs team, if they get out ahead, the Niners they might pull a Ravens and get a little antsy and not run the ball as much as they could. So I'll go Pacheco.
Yeah, let's hope that happens. I mean, if we're talking about this Super Bowl and saying the 49ers only had 6 rushing attempts from their running back room like the Ravens did, I think we're talking about a pretty comfortable Chiefs win. All right, how about quarterbacks running the ball? We all know that a running Mahomes is the best Mahomes, that he finds a way, especially in the playoffs, to get loose whenever he needs to. Patrick Mahomes' over-under is 26.5 on rushing yards, where Brock Purdy's is 12.5. Brock Purdy is not immobile. That's an interesting one to me. I think both of these guys hit these overs personally.
Yeah, Mahomes always finds a scramble or two in a big game. He really does. Like, if you look at every single one of his big games, there is always a 10-plus yard scramble or 2, honestly, in there. So the numbers are so high, though. And I do think with the Chiefs defense, probably not only blitzing Purdy, but also just confusing him and making him kind of uncomfortable. I bet there are a few times he takes off and gets a few yards, and it adds up. So I'll take Purdy on this, honestly.
Yeah, I'll take both of those guys. We could do this all day. Literally, there's a million of them. I thought shutout win was interesting. They gave the Chiefs plus 3,500 to shut out the 49ers, and the 49ers only plus 3,000 to shut out the Chiefs. I think it's highly unlikely that either team gets shut out, and I think that would be highly disappointing. But it's interesting that the 49ers have theoretically better odds to shut the Chiefs out. That seems strange.
Is it one of those things where it's like, the Chiefs have been shut down in the Super Bowl. They didn't score a touchdown in Tampa. Is it, so we've seen them get shut out. We've never seen the Niners get shut out in the Super Bowl or whatever. Obviously joking. But.
Sure, yeah. Here's a random one. Which is greater? Which number is greater? The yardage of the longest field goal made in this game, or the total points scored in this game?
That's a good one. I like that. I think I'm going to go with field goal because I don't think this will be a high-scoring game, and I do think the Chiefs will have Bucker kick at least 155 or so, something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I think there'll be some field goals kicked here because these aren't bad defenses. The Chiefs are playing more conservative. They're more likely to throw the ball away on 3rd and long in field goal range and just go ahead and take the field goal. I think the field goals should happen there. How about the classic one to wrap this up, unless you have others, but the classic one to wrap up, the length of the national anthem. It's the bet is it longer than 1 minute, 26 seconds? I have literally no frame of reference here on how long it should be, how long it usually is. And he says Reba McEntire is singing this one. Do you think Reba McEntire goes over 1 minute, 26 seconds or under?
Queen of country, right? I mean, they like to, draw out their notes, I guess. No, I don't know. I'll say over.
Draw it out.
There you go. Honestly, no, I'm switching. I'll say under just because these odds are terrible. They're giving you minus 145 odds on the over. That's not even worth taking. So I'll go under.
Yeah, I don't think this is something worth betting on. I think the Chiefs are somebody worth betting on. I know that's what I've done on DraftKings.com sportsbook. I'm excited for this Super Bowl. I don't want to be overconfident as a fan because I don't want to jinx them. But you have to feel good about the matchup. You have to feel great about being a Chiefs fan, a Kansas City sports fan. Congratulations to Bobby Witt Jr. signing a monster contract to stay with the Royals. The Royals have their Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs do as well. This is going to be a fun game. Hopefully we can all just sit back and enjoy it, and it won't be as stressful as some others have been. I don't know if you want to get down to predictions or leave those for the arrowheadpride.com website where we do our predictions every week. Definitely check out Ron's content there. He'll have some more great analysis coming this week. And I'll do market movers and of course, winners, losers for one more time this season. One more game, 60 more minutes to see how this thing ends up. It really could be a dynasty-defining game in the outcome, and it's going to be awesome to watch. All signs, all vibes feel good. So, without trying to jinx anything, I'm looking forward to this Sunday. I'm guessing all of you are too. Any final thoughts, Ron, before we let the folks go?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm confident. I'm feeling good about the Chiefs going into this. The vibes are high. We talked about it at the top, but the Niners are they have a certain mentality here that I don't think the Chiefs have, and I think that is going to matter in this game. And I think we will be talking about a dynasty after the end of this because it still isn't a dynasty. It really isn't. It feels like it's an AFC dynasty. It's the Brady Patriots in the AFC, but it's not a dynasty until they get that 3rd ring. So I can't wait for it.
All right. Hopefully we're talking about the parade logistics at this time next week on the Auto Structure Podcast. Thanks for spending your time with us today. We look forward to it. We'll talk to you soon.